Welcome back to Yahoo Finance Live. This is What Just Happened. I'm Pras Subramanian. Let's talk about China's auto sector. From Detroit's Big Three to Volkswagen, building market share in the nation has been a critical goal for decades. COVID put a wrench in that plan, to say the least. VW Group, one of the many taking a hit from COVID-related stoppages, though a major plant in Chengdu just reopened a few days ago. Tesla, meanwhile, suffering from an ongoing demand issues, leading it to cut prices and reportedly slashing output at Shanghai Gigafactory. For more on that, let's bring in Dan Ives, senior analyst at Wedbush, who joins me now in studio. Dan, thanks for joining us. Let's talk about overall big picture in China. What's your take on what's happening there with all the COVID-related stuff with regards to automakers?
Look, it's been a nightmare. I mean, I think you're starting to see cracks in the armor for the first time in many years. And obviously competition is increasing in the EV landscape. You've seen that. I almost call it a Game of Thrones going on between Tesla and NIO, XPeng, and others. And I think that's the hearts and lungs of the overall EV bull story. So I think you've seen a lot of pressure on these automakers, and it's a storm they need to navigate.
You know, you mentioned Tesla. You know, we've seen reports of production cuts. They've had to cut prices as well, and actually adding some sort of insurance incentives. Are you kind of worried about Q4 for Tesla?
Look, I think after the Cinderella ride for the last 3 to 4 years, I mean, they're hitting some hurdles. And I think you've seen that. And even though a lot of it was, we'll call it production or supply chain driven, you're starting to see some demand cracks. Now, look, I don't believe the longer term story in China is thrown out the window. I just think they're navigating now some really, for the first time in years, some growth challenges. They're cutting price. You've seen some, I'd say, supply chain reductions. And now we got to see, not just in Q4, but 2023, 2 million units. That's the line in the sand globally.
So you think that with these sort of production, the COVID restrictions going away, that Tesla might actually have some kind of runway here?
Look, I feel like it's similar as Apple, right? I think that's going to give them a little more flexibility because right now you got consumers locked in their apartments or houses. They're not focused on iPhones and Teslas, right? Or Lululemon pants. And I think that's part of the problem is that now what's a normalized environment look like in China? Recession's clearly hit, but now I think the street's starting to look past this and what does 2023 look like? I think that's really the focus right now, not just for Tesla, for NIO, XPeng, BYD, and others.
So GM also, a lot of operations in China, a bunch of joint ventures there. They've also come out with their newest EV game plan, the updated game plan, where they're seeing profits kind of push forward a bit from those types of vehicles. Is GM kind of better positioned in China than Tesla?
Look, I mean, and I was there in Detroit this week, spending time at the headquarters. I think right now the most underestimated story across automotive is GM. I think the transformation that Mary and the team are building on EVs, a lot of skepticism. I believe we're going to sit here 2-3 years from now and view this as a really pivotal sort of chapter for the company because it's Ultium, because they ultimately own that food chain. You start to do some math, I believe this could be a stock that gets significantly re-rated. And even if China for them is insignificant, in terms of with the conversion opportunity for GM, there's a renaissance in the 313 area code between GM as well as Ford.
And that Dearborn rivalry, a crosstown rivalry. Back to China again, we're talking about the world's biggest car market, the biggest EV market by far and away. We talked about GM and Tesla sort of battling it out. Maybe one of those guys will be on top. But could it be BYD? I mean, they're really knocking it out of the park with EV and hybrid sales. Are they sort of the sleeping giant there?
I think they are. I think that's one, everyone knows them, but I think under the covers, that's sort of probably one of the biggest opportunities for them in terms of in the China market. Now, look, the golden child continues to be NIO, in terms of what they're obviously doing. But look, it's not a zero-sum game, and I think that's the one that's important. You're going to see a lot of vendors continue to benefit. You still have conversion in terms of overall EVs that's in the low teens. A lot of opportunity ahead.
There's a lot of opportunity there for multiple competitors there too. Dan Ives, Wedbush, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for being here.